fourth grade. For today's lesson, we're splitting 8.9 in half, just to make sure that we're really able to cover everything and make sure that we understand everything fully. So first, when we're looking at our quadrilaterals, we can use diagonal lines to cut them into triangles. So a diagonal connects opposite angles of a quadrilateral. You can make triangles by drawing a diagonal on a quadrilateral. So looking at number 1, we want to list all the names for each quadrilateral and then use letters to name the triangles that we've made with those diagonals, and then tell what kind of triangles they are based on their angle measures. So something important to notice is that when they give us this quadrilateral here, and we've got a right angle here, that right angle continues on through the entire quadrilateral series through number 1. So as we continue through with number 1, we're going to remember that we have these 4 right angles in each of the corners. So first, when we look at this quadrilateral, we notice automatically that it's probably a square. And if we wanted to double check by measuring, we could do that, but I'm going to tell you it is a square. So we'll write a square. Okay. A square can also be a rectangle and a rhombus. Now remember, a rhombus has 4 sides that are equal, which is true for this square. So we'll put rhombus. A rectangle has 4 right angles, so it's a rectangle. And then it's also a parallelogram because it has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. Parallelogram. Now, if we look at this next figure where we have our diagonal going from A to C, we can see that we have 2 triangles. Now, remember, I told you it's important to remember that our right angles stay the same in each one. So we still have a right angle here and a right angle here. But this is no longer we're not gonna consider this a right angle anymore, because we're thinking, okay, we've split that corner in half. So now it's not really a right angle. We're gonna look at 2 acute angles. So we have triangle ADC, and then we have triangle ABC. And make sure that you have our triangle symbol before the letters to tell us what kind of a shape we're working with. Now, looking at, again, our angle measures to determine what kind of triangle we have 2 right angles, okay? One here and one here in our separate triangles. So that tells us that we have 2 right triangles. So we'll just put right, and then we'll take a shortcut and do the triangle symbol. That's just fine. Now, using what we know from part 2 of number 1, we're going to move into part 3. Okay, we have triangle DAB. Okay, and remembering that that's our new diagonal. And then we have triangle DCB. Okay, and then again, remembering that we have those right angles still from the beginning. So we have 2 right triangles still. So moving through 2 and 3, I'll give you the starting figure names, and then I'll let you work through what kind of triangles we have and the names of the triangles. But just paying close attention to our angle measures in each one, and knowing that the angle measures in this figure are different than the angle measures for the triangles in that 3rd figure. So just double check your diagonal again and make sure that you understand when we have one obtuse triangle or one obtuse angle, we have an obtuse triangle. When we have 3 acute angles, we have an acute triangle. And then 1 right angle makes a right triangle. So for number 2, this shape is a parallelogram because we have 2 opposite sides that are parallel. parallelogram. And we also have a rhombus because if we measure each of these sides, we would find that they're equal. So this is a rhombus. And then don't forget to, when you're naming the triangles, to put the letters, and I'll just give you, should have, and they don't have to be in that order, but just make sure that you have those names, H, G, F, okay? And then number 3, and then don't forget your triangle names on that third line, or the second line. Number 3, we have, it's a rectangle because there's 4 right angles. And it's also a parallelogram because, again, there's 2 opposite sides, or 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. Okay. And again, just like number 1, making sure that when we have right angles that we're paying close attention that they're still, if this is the same shape all the way through, we just are adding a diagonal in. So I'll let you name these triangles on your own and use that as practice. And don't forget, again, don't forget to name your triangles here. Okay, for number 4, we're going to continue, but now we're looking at different kinds of shapes and working with shapes that just have one name, really. So if we look at number 4, there's no right angles, the sides are not equal, so we're just looking at a parallelogram. There are 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel, and that's all that we have, so it's just a parallelogram. So that's the only name that that gets. Now, when we look at our diagonal, we need to be really careful because we're not always going to have the same, like on 1, 2, and 3, we had the same angles for each time we had the diagonal. But for this one, we're looking at possibly different size angles. And then if you take a peek at 5 and 6, we have different size angles in each diagonal. So we're just going to pay close attention to what's happening with our diagonal. So for the triangle names for number 4, we have triangle NQP and triangle NOP. And then looking at all of our angle measures, and we can check them all at the same time. Those are all acute angles, so we have acute triangles. Okay, and then looking at our names here, we have triangle Q and O and triangle QPO. And then we'll notice that we have 2 obtuse angles. So that means that we have obtuse triangles. And remember, this diagonal makes it so that we have 1 triangle here and 1 triangle here. So although we have 2 obtuse angles, they're not in the same triangle. So just make sure that you understand that there's a difference between having 2 obtuse angles in a quadrilateral and 2 obtuse triangles, or two obtuse angles in a triangle, which is impossible. Okay, number 5. This is where I really want you to pay attention because we're going to have 2 different angles or 2 different triangles in one figure. So first, our figure that we have is a trapezoid. So we're going to write the word trapezoid here. And then we have triangle RUT, and triangle RST. Okay, and then if we look at the angles in triangle RUT, that's an acute angle, that's an acute angle, and this is definitely an acute angle. So that's one acute triangle. So we'll do acute triangle. But then if we look at our angles in triangle RST, we have an acute, and an obtuse. So one obtuse angle makes an obtuse triangle. So obtuse triangle. So moving forward through the rest of 5 and then through 6, make sure that you're identifying that you have 2 different kinds of triangles in one figure. And then again, we want to make sure that, like on number 6, for example, that we're paying close attention. Although it shows that this is a right angle, with this diagonal, it is no longer a right angle. It is now an acute angle because we have part of it here and part of it here. So angle V has been split. And same with angle Y here. It has been split. So we just need to pay close attention to where our diagonal is and what kind of triangle it's creating. For number 6, the shape that we have is a trapezoid. And then I'll just get you started again, just like I did on number 5, with our triangle names, and I'll let you determine what kinds of triangles we have. So we have triangle, I'll clean this up for you. We have triangle VYX, and we have triangle VXW. So just making sure that we label each of those triangles and paying close attention to the clues that they give us here. Okay, now looking at building our own quadrilaterals with angles. What you're going to do is you're going to cut these triangles out at the bottom, and then you're going to follow the directions on how they want you to put them together. So if we take a look here, and I'll label these so that you can see what we mean when we say join. We'll do ABC, and then this would be A, this would be B, and this is C. Okay, so for example, number 8 says to join line segment AC with line segment AC. So we're going to take 2 of the same, they're 2 equivalent, or congruent is really the word that we use for equivalent shapes. So 2 equivalent or congruent triangles, and we're going to match up the line segments that they ask us to. So when we join up line segment AC with line segment AC, we're given this type of a quadrilateral. So then what you'll do is you will glue or tape your triangles that you've cut out from here, from this bottom section in your book. You'll glue them here, and then you'll write the name on the line. So number 8, since we've kind of talked about that one already together, you're going to glue 2 of your triangles together, and it will come out as a shape looking like this. And cut it. It doesn't matter if it looks like this or if it's turned. You can turn it this way. It can be sideways. It doesn't matter. But what you're going to do then is tell what kind of a shape that is. So looking at the angles again, we have 4 right angles, and we have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. So that makes this. I mean, I only want you to give it the most specific name. So the most specific name we can give this one is a rectangle, because there are 4 right angles and 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. So you'll do 7 and 9 all by yourself and figure out those shape types. And don't get too tricked. Use page 302 to help you decide which is what, and just put those names down. And then again, our answers will be on Google Classroom, and we'll do a little bit of a review tomorrow before we get going on the second half of our lesson here. But just use these examples to help you build 7 and 9, because all they really want you to do is take these and cut them out and glue them together so that you're able to play with the triangles to build a quadrilateral and kind of understand how they go together. So as always, if you need help, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you soon.